less one round. Let the oppressed rise, and let the rich mourn till the sundown. Enough with these chickens, about to make it hot, call it compound. Just for my niggas, put the guns in the drugs down. Dwelling in peace till the Lord call for the bloodhounds. Try to decide my death and got beside yourself. Swore drawn for what you perform, how you gon' hide yourself? Devil got to die for his lies and adventures. Ain't got no love for them crackers, nah, just cruel intentions. And in my father's house is spinning mansions. I got plenty bitches, worthy of vengeance. This your death sentence. I'm talking to you. Slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter. That they do not rise and fill the world with lies. Ain't die for your skin, you gon' die for your crime. That's why I'm talking to you. So warn for your life. Your life try to destroy my people. You gotta pay the price, nigga. You gotta hear, let them hear. Till the devils that they end this deal. Slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah. Now they shook from vicious words out this handed book. Bound to take these rappers back to school. My flow standing hook. They crossed the line, ain't no coming back. You became no cowards. The only thing sweet is the honey check. Righteous is the Lord. Give me rest from my sorrow. And hand down death for them devils. There's no tomorrow. Why? Cause they violence leave a man a stiff corpse. You see a flag in a badge, I see horns in a pitchfork. Go ahead. So please believe it, the white man is a demon, and I ain't gon' vote for them to free me. No. They beat us till we, the color purple, that's why this knife to they throat like ceiling. You got this nigga on his knees, they wanna have peace. We screaming, let this bitch burn at 1,000 degrees. I'm laying in the bosom of revenge. I told her I'd do anything she please, as I squeeze on the double D's. Fuck you mean? I'm talking to you. Slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah, slaughter. That they do not rise and fill the world with lies. Ain't die for your skin, you gon' die for your crime. That's why I'm talking to you. So warn for your life. Your life try to destroy my people. You gotta pay the price, nigga. You gotta hear, let them hear. Till the devils that they end this deal. Slaughter, yeah, slaughter, yeah.
The police just shot him for no apparent reason. No reason at all. They asked for license and registration. That's the police officer over there that did it. With the black on. I can't really do shit because they got me handcuffed. I can't believe they just did this. I'm fucking back!
It's okay, I'm not here with you.
They killed, give me Isaiah 14 and 21. They did the same thing to my people. So you said that they put millions of my actions. Should a murderer go to jail for murdering? Absolutely. Should a thief go to jail when he steals? Absolutely. Should a robber pay back the money he robbed? Absolutely. So why shouldn't the white man pay for what he did? That's right. That's right.
One day you'll see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a
Was never expected to grow. Just obstacles set in the road. That a result of me selling my soul. The story I'm telling is cold, but yet it's what everyone knows. The white man's the devil is known. America was never a home. Only a place of captivity, save facility, hating, disfigure me. They claim that I'm lazy, be killing me. Maybe this slavery draining my energy. 400 years and counting. The trail of my tears is countless. Main fact that I'm here is astounding, but I can't wait till this shit is surrounded. Ready to tangle my king and the angels, be ready to rap. Cracking the sky, nuclear missiles will make it official. I'm capturing every cracker surviving. Put them all in chains where they need to be. Slavery for me. And let the whole world see that with them in the cage and safer in the streets. Put the dog on a leash. Get resolved for the beast. 144, get the ruler show, we could all be at peace. As soon as the trumpets are sound, your kingdom we busting it down. The only way justice is found, the time for your judgment is now.
You see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a
Look, ain't no remorse in my blood slim. It won't be no compromise. Now it's time to feed the worms. Watch his body turn to flies. I clutch iron while you trust the lies. The next Glock I buy gon' be Gen 5. I get it customized. And sending shots off like farewell. Praying payback come back around like a carousel. Still remember your Honda's words ringing in my head like bells. Said you in this body, you fit a Lord, fuck the cartel. Triangle choke, apply pressure to the game like I did Vondale. Payback's a bitch in a dress, she a bombshell. Revenge is served cold, I just hope they make an oxtail. Glock fresh out the box, I swear it got that new car smell. Made myself a target in the world of mad shooters. Devil's design 5 for our babies to pass through. In the day of our king's reign, I'll be overzealous. They bought my jealous, I bought brand new parabellums.
You see just how it feels. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog. Payback is a dog. It's a dog.
Yeah, I'm on 44 shit, you know what I mean? Busy man, busy man. Look, when that shit drop, you step all the way on their neck, step on their neck and they head with that shit. Fine then, I ain't show no mercy, we gon' show them boy what time it is. I pop out like I'm Samuel, I got time to kill. Haters thought I died, I survived. They don't know how I did it, got it out the mud, straight to glory. They don't know how I did it. He nice, but he don't show them skills, how I show them skills. He ride, but he don't work the wheel, how I work the wheel. They mad, I'm too solid, circle tight, yeah, vacuum seal. No, they want my life, I ain't worried, I got rank for real. I got real soldiers kill for me. I'ma school them niggas like they baby Jody. Got it out the dust, now I'm too clean, don't know why they hate me. What you want out life, dawg? Guns and butter, baby boy. You PK top, dawg. Certified road runner. I'ma turn that econ line into a damn tank. I got chopper stash in the attic like they Anne Frank. They had that shit on lock till I snapped on them like bolt cutters. You cannot play both sides, gotta choose your colors. See him throwing that one up with that W, that's my blood, bro. Fine in. I ain't show no mercy, I'm gon' show them boy what time it is. I pop out like I'm Samuel. I got time to kill. Haters thought I died, I survived. They don't know how I did it. Got it out the dust, straight to glory. They don't know how I feel. He nice, but he don't show them skills how I show them skills. He ride, but he don't work the wheel how I work the wheel. Ooh, I got it made, circle tight, yeah, vacuum seal. Said they want my life, I ain't worried. I got Ray for real. Damn, killing motherfuckers. Stand over him, shoot him in the.
All right, clap it up. Hey, Shalom Israel. We are the ISUPK, started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commandant General Yohana. If it's not the ISUPK under Commandant General Yohana, it is not the truth. My name is Priest and Officer of 1000 Mayad, and this is the Thursday night Chicago history class. I'm joined by my right-hand man, Priest and Officer of 500, Lakam Yala. As I said, this is the history class, so we're going to go over a little bit of history. On coming up on Sunday is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s, or rather Michael King Jr.'s, or Orgy Mike's birthday. Hey, that's what Captain Yacht called him. That's what I'm gonna call him. So you know what I mean. And it's going to be nationally recognized on Monday. So on Monday, everybody is preparing for the 3-day weekend coming up. You know, when everybody leave on Friday, most people are not going to have to come back to work on Monday because Dr. King's birthday is nationally recognized as a holiday, as an official but unofficial American holiday. You know what I mean? So one thing that we have to do as a people is consider this. When our oppressors nationally recognize one of us and make a holiday behind us, what did we do to earn that privilege from them? What did we do to earn that recognition from them? Now, I know when I was younger, you know, Black History Month, you know what I mean? Reading about, watching the movies on TV, being taught about the marches and the civil rights movement, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. seemed like a hero to me. You know what I mean? I was raised under the thought process to have the mind state that Dr. King was the type of Negro that you wanted to be, and that someone like a Malcolm X was not. Dr. King was the good guy. Malcolm X was the villain. Dr. King was the non-violent champion of Black people, the champion of the civil rights, the true leader and heart of the civil rights movement, while Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael, all you name them. You go over to when the Black Panthers formed, like a Fred Hampton Jr., you know, Huey Newton, all of these more revolutionary spirit, revolutionary-minded individuals from our community, from our nation, were considered troublemakers. They were considered the bad guys, you know, and I grew up with that mentality until I got older and I actually started to, you know, research these people, until I actually started to do some history and think for myself. After I actually grew old enough to recognize the experiences of racism that I had in my life. You know, once you actually experience racism and recognize it for its true form, once you are discriminated against for absolutely no reason but the color of your skin, you will start to understand the disservice that Dr. King did to Black people. You'll start to understand that what he did was actually essentially sell us out. And all because he had a lust for money and Edomite women. I don't want to get us kicked off the air. So you know what I mean? But for Edomite, non-melanated Edomite women that came from the Caucasus Mountains, I'll just say that so you'll know who I'm talking about. You know what I mean? What Dr. King did was absolutely disgusting to our people. Integration is wrong. If we could, look grab me thou art a holy people. You know what I mean? Integration is a sin. The Lord did never intended for us to blend in with every race of people and be like them and worship their gods and hold arm in arm and hand with them. Like Dr. King said that he had a dream that one day little black girls and little white boys and little black boys and little white girls would hold hand in hand and sing that old Negro spiritual. You know what I'm saying? And scream out, free at last, free at last. My thing is, what would the little Caucasian children have a reason to say that they're free from? Right. They're already free. There's a saying in America, what is it, white, free, and 21? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's a thing to be. It's a hell of a thing in America to be free, white, and 21. You know what I mean? But it's also a hell of a thing in America to be enslaved black in every age that a black person can achieve in this country. Right. No matter what your age is, whether you're young, whether you're a teenager, whether you're a young adult, a full-fledged adult, or an old adult, you know what I mean? You are not free. If you're black, Hispanic, or Native American in this country, you have never realized freedom. The only people in this country that knew freedom, well, I can't say the only one, because black Hispanics and natives back in the days, they had a certain level of freedom before the conquistadors came over here, before Columbus came over here. When Columbus came, that freedom that they enjoyed ended, and they were enslaved. Then we were enslaved, and it's been that way ever since. You know what I mean? Now, keep in mind, the Lord never intended, as I said, for us to blend with these other nations. He never intended for us to be a part of these other nations. So essentially, we are disobeying the Lord when we bind ourselves, when we do things like practice Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, atheism, Egyptology, any African made religion or spiritual system. When we follow all of these things, they are not our culture. The Lord said we shouldn't do these things. That's idol worship. We are sinning. So by integrating with people, the thing about integrating is when you integrate with a people, you're going to naturally start to adapt some of their ways. Right. Okay. Your children are going to grow up seeing their ways and adapt their ways. So then you're going to be in a perpetual trap of sinning against the will of the Most High Power. You got the scripture? If you could, Baba Kashab.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 6. Mm-hmm. For thou art an holy people.
Thou art what?
Thou art an holy people.
For any of you who are confused, the word holy means separate. It doesn't mean the sky opens up, little naked Cupid babies come down with wings and glitter and stardust and sun rays, and some magical harps are playing and the music. Oh, no. Holy just simply means separate. Thou art a separate people. Read.
Unto the Lord.
Unto who?
Unto the Lord.
Unto the Lord. The creator of all things made us a separate people from everybody else, and we answer unto him. We are ruled directly by him. We are his people unto the Lord. We are the people that God has taken unto himself as his. We're God's possession. So how is it that we ended up being possessions of the so-called white man, of these Edomites? How did we end up being possessions of the so-called Arab man? How did we end up being in possession of the so-called Asian man, the so-called African man, the so-called Jewish man, the so-called everybody, every race on this planet? We have been their possession at some point in time when we belong to the Most High Power. Read.
Thy God. Mm-hmm. The Lord thy God has chosen thee.
He did what?
He has chosen thee.
The Lord chose us. Read.
To be a special people.
To be what?
To be a special
To
people.
be a special people. Read.
Unto himself.
Unto him. Unto himself. He didn't want to share us with other nations. He didn't want to share us with other with other gods or religious systems. The Lord wanted us to be his because he is the only true God. He is the only God. He's the only creator of everything. So he chose us to be his. Is there any more on that? Go ahead.
Above all people.
To do what?
Above all people.
To be above all people. Now, you might say some people, you might say our people, but this is very specific. Above all people.
That are upon the face of the earth.
How can you argue with that? We are the number one people on the planet. We are the greatest people on the planet. And the proof is in this. All of the greatest inventions in modern times were made by black people. The elevator, the light, you look at lights, you look at the elevator, you look at the refrigerator, you look at the toilet, you know what I mean? You look at stoplights. You know what I'm saying? You look at deep freezers. You look at hell. They wouldn't have never reached the moon if it wasn't for black women. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't have been able to get into outer space.
Right.
But if you look at the rail car, the trains, the this, the that, the other, if you start really going down the list of inventions that everybody across the world uses, it was invented by a black man or a black woman.
That's right.
So the Lord chose us to be a special people unto himself above everybody on the earth. Everybody uses what we have. Everybody uses us. Everybody scavenges off of us. Everybody takes from us. And we're the only people that don't want to take from anybody else. We don't want to take nothing. Until we're in extreme poverty. Right. Until we're in the ghetto. Until we're in the barrios, until we stuffed out in the corner of this country on a reservation. Go ahead.
If I could, sir. Even then, we still don't want to take it. We want to ask them for a piece.
Yep. Good point. Yeah. We don't. All right. Even then, now we want to beg. We want them to show us mercy. Please, Master, give me a crumb. I'm starving. Just give me that bone with that little piece of meat. Let me get the butt end of that bread. Right. Let me get the last couple of drops of water from your cup that you done backwashed in. Just please, Master, please throw me a crumb. That's what we do. You know what I mean? Until we get to the point where, okay, now our kids over here starving to death. Right. My ribs is touching. I'm desperate. Then we go and try to take it when we're desperate, but then we do it foolishly. Right. You know what I mean? The Lord said that this is all ours, man. Everybody takes from us. We don't want to take from anybody. We want everybody to just accept us and get along with them. And that's where Dr. Martin Luther King went wrong. Dr. Martin Luther King had the potential to be one of the greatest leaders black people had ever seen. No one can deny the brother was very charismatic. The brother had a hell of a speaking voice. You know what I mean? It was something about him. Even to this day, knowing the truth, you can listen to a Dr. King speak. There's something about his speech. You're going to listen. Now, we're going to break it down for what it is at this point, but you're going to listen. The brother had leadership potential that was unbound, but he wanted to serve our masters. He loved their money. You know what I mean? He loved their women. He loved them more than he loved us. Right. And the proof of it is his first love, and when he was in college, the woman that he wanted to marry first out of college was an Edomite woman. Right. You know what I mean? He married Claretta so he could be accepted as a black leader, and wouldn't be looked upon for his lust. Because there's no way you can be a civil rights leader, a leader of black people, and you are married to, you know what I mean, a leader like he was going to be on a national scale and be married to an Edomite. You know what I'm saying? So if you could, is there any more on that, Salaki?
Law, sir, that's it on that.
All right, drop that and give me the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 13 and verse 1. You know what I mean? So let's get into the nature of Dr. King. Let's get into what the Lord thinks about Dr. King. You know what I'm saying? Everyone plays the I draft. I've been to the mountaintop speech. Everyone plays the I have a dream speech. You know what I mean? Everyone, those are his most famous speeches, the I have a dream speech and then the mountaintop speech. You know what I'm saying? And people play those religiously, especially around this time of year. You know what I'm saying? But one thing you have to realize about Dr. King is that he was a failure. He failed. He did not succeed. His movement did not succeed. What he successfully did was put in your mind that you need to vote for these crooked politicians that have done nothing for you. He put in your mind that the best thing and the most powerful thing that you could do after the civil rights movement was over was go to those polls and vote. When by the end of his life, he didn't even agree with it. By the end of his life, he saw the mistakes that he had made, and he wanted to try to make up for them, but it was way too late. And that's when they killed him. But let's get to some scriptures about Dr. King. You know what I mean? I actually hold that if you could, Baba Gashar, let me see here. No, we're going to do that. I'm going to bring this out next. Read that scripture. Start at verse 1.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 13, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
If there arise among you a prophet.
A what?
A prophet.
Now, the Lord says this is something. Now, here's the thing about Christians. They don't read the Bible. If your pastor had been properly dissecting this Bible ever since it was put in front of us, ever since we regained possession of the Bible here in America, ever since we regained possession of our records, if the pastors were actually doing properly disseminating these scriptures to you, we would have seen Dr. King coming a mile away.
Right.
Dr. King would have seen himself coming. He would have fought a little harder not to be who these scriptures are talking about.
Right.
But we're going to see, you might say, what do you mean? The scriptures talk about the Bible predicted Dr. King to the T. It said what he was going to do, and he did it. Mm-hmm. If you could. And it also said what was going to happen to him. And it happened. Read.
Or a dreamer of dreams.
Or what?
A dreamer of dreams.
It said, if one arises from among you, a prophet or a dreamer of dreams. The I have a dream speech. Everybody looked forward to that future, the great dream. Even Barack Obama, when he won, was talking about Dr. King's dream. Michelle Obama had her great speech where she said it went from a dream deferred to a dream fulfilled. Well, you know what? She was right. It never got deferred. That dream was fulfilled. That dream was fulfilled to its fullest, and we are suffering the side effects of that dream. Dr. King himself said that his dream had in many ways become a nightmare, and that's before he died. That's a couple years after his speech. He said that dream of his became a nightmare because he knew he had led his people wrong. He told Harry Belafonte that I fear I have led my people into a burning house because he knew that he was wrong. So the Lord said, if one arises that's a prophet or a dreamer of dreams, go ahead.
And give it thee a sign or a wonder.
The sign or a wonder. One day you're going to see little black babies and little white babies, little black boys and little white girls gonna hold hand in hand and sing that old Negro spiritual.
Right.
That's a wonder. Makes you wonder when that's gonna happen. The sign was that March on Washington, because everybody looked at that March on Washington. That was the most powerful thing black people had seen other black people do in this country besides riot. That was the most powerful. You know what a wonder was? Those peaceful protests that he used to do. He had black people doing peaceful protests. That's a sign and a wonder right there. You know what I mean? He showed you things that you had never seen in this country.
Right.
That you had never seen in the world, because nowhere else in the world, or very few places in the world, were people peacefully protesting against tyranny and getting their heads busted like we did. Go ahead.
If I could, sir, what you're saying is so heavy. And I distinctly remember Commanding General Yohana say, be very weary of the people that America decide to erect statues of.
Mm-hmm.
They got multiple statues of this monster.
Yep.
All across the United States. They got streets with his name on it everywhere.
Everywhere.
And our people don't think about Martin Luther King the same way they think of Christopher Columbus.
Right. And here's the heavy part about what you're saying, and that's good. Get a look on my head. So, Commanding General Yohana warned us, and he was absolutely 1,010% correct.
Right.
Okay. You do have to wonder why would Dr. King have streets named after him, statues? They got national museums. His story has been made and remade in Hollywood movies and made for TV movies and documentaries and all of this stuff for years and years and years. Whole news broadcasts have been dedicated to him on his birthday. And you have to wonder why. What did he do that was so great? What he did was he destroyed the black community.
Right.
What he did was he destroyed you, black man, black woman. He destroyed your mind. He destroyed that. He took the fight out of you.
Right.
He got you until this day marching and protesting in the middle of the streets. When any other people in this world that have ever wanted to free themselves from under the chains of tyranny, they stood up, they rose up, and they fought for their freedom. They didn't beg for their freedom. They didn't march for their freedom.
Right.
They didn't protest for their freedom. They got up and they took arms and they fought their way out. Guess who else used to do that? You did, black man.
Right.
You did, Hispanic man. You did, Native American man.
Right.
You used to get up during slavery and fight. There were so many slaves. We hear about Nat Turner. You know what I'm saying? We hear about Denmark Vesey. You know what I'm saying? We hear about Toussaint Louverture. You know what I'm saying? We hear about those. But there were hundreds, maybe thousands of slave rebellions from the inception of slavery all the way till it got abolished. Well, we actually took up arms and fought and killed plantation owners. We killed slave masters and overseers and their families, just like they were killing our families. Now, don't get it wrong. We in the ISUPK are not saying go out and grab some guns and be foolish like the Not Effing Around coalition, where you're gonna end up shooting yourself and your leader gonna end up in jail. We're not saying go and do that. But what we're saying is get that spirit back in you and prepare yourself for the day when these race wars break out. Don't be caught unawares. Don't be caught off guard trying to live Dr. King's dream and you end up eternally asleep. And your family ends up eternally asleep. Your daughters get raped in front of you. Your wife gets raped in front of you. Your mother gets raped in front of you. Your sons and your nephews get raped in front of you. Because you think they just do that to our women? They've done that to our men also. This is a savage beast that we're underneath. A relentless oppressor and a deviant who does what the lust of his heart tells him to do. These are the people Dr. King joins you to. That's why the scripture warned about if that type of prophet raises up amongst you and gives you signs and wonder. Go ahead, look, keep reading. Verse 2.
And the sign or the wonder come to pass. Therefore,
whereof?
It's like whereof he speak unto thee, saying, let us go after other gods, which thou hast not known,
Mm-hmm.
and let us serve them.
And if any of those things that he said would happen come to pass, he's basically sending you off.
Right.
He's sending you out. He's saying, let's go after other gods. Now we worship. Dr. King was a Christian pastor. The other God he worshiped was Caesar Borgia, the fake white Jesus. He got more people in his church than Ebenezer Baptist Church worshiping that fraud. You know what I mean? Worshiping that false image of Christ than any other pastor you could imagine. Dr. King was one of the original megachurch pastors.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That brother's collection plate overfloweth. You know what I'm saying? Don't be fooled by that. Because he's going to send you after ways, gods that your forefathers had known. And you're going to serve them. Right now, to this day, you cannot get black people to stop serving white Jesus. That is one of the hardest things to do. You can't get Hispanic people to stop serving white Mary. You know what I'm saying? It's one of the hardest things to do. And then those of you that don't want to be a Christian or a Catholic, you serving Allah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or you serving Buddha, or you serving Krishna, or whoever, or one of them Hindu gods, or you following out the Haile Selassie, smoking weed and getting dreads. When Haile Selassie told the people of Jamaica, I'm not here to save you. I'm not your God. I'm not your savior. I'm trying to save my people in Ethiopia. But I am not God. I am not Christ. I am not here to save you. But they smoked the blunt and said, you know about Jesus would have said that. Go ahead.
If I could.
Go ahead.
My big brother, thanks be to the Lord that he's in the truth.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? Preaching officer of Pop. I remember, you know what I'm saying, back in the day, before he because he actually introduced the Israelite movement to me. To, you know what I'm saying? He introduced all of this stuff just to wing me out of the Christian church.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I remember him following the Rastafari movement. And we used to make, you know what I'm saying, make jokes and talk to each other and like how they talk. And then after every word we'll be Selassie.
So, all right.
It is, and not understanding that that's what they say, giving praise to
Haile Selassie. Yeah, that's what they give praise. So when they say Selassie High, yeah, they're putting him up here as Christ. Saying he sat on David's throne over in Ethiopia. He sat on the throne of David. King David's throne is not in Ethiopia, first of all. Never has been, never will be.
Right.
Okay. Talking about he was part of the lineage of David, and all the nations, he fulfilled the prophecy with the nations bowing down to him when Queen Elizabeth gave him some power, and he went to the United Nations, and they recognized Ethiopia when they were freed from Great Britain or whatever they say. Somebody was sitting in front of the TV when that happened, smoking a spliff, thinking they knew the Bible, and said, "See, man, they bow down to him. He's the Christ." No, he's not Christ.
Right.
If he was Christ, the earth would be in eternal peace.
That's right.
So he was the second coming of Christ, and then he died and got to come back a third time. I'm sorry to come. I didn't see about a third coming in the scriptures. You know what I'm saying? I never in my life have ever heard about the third coming of Christ. Do you know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna lay off my brothers. You know what I'm saying? Let's get back. I'm gonna lay off those brothers, I should say. Let's get back on Dr. King. You know what I'm saying? Continue.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 13, verse 3. Thou shalt not hearken unto the words of that prophet or that dreamer of dreams.
So whatever this false prophet, this dreamer of dreams tells you and what he says, don't follow that.
Right.
Don't do it. Imagine if we really, really, really knew the scriptures and were in our right, at least partially in our right mind when Dr. King popped up. Brothers and sisters would have been like, nope. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be voting right now. If we actually followed what the Lord just said. Dr. King told us to get out and vote. He was paid by Lyndon B. Johnson to push the Voters Right Act, the Voter Registration Act, the Voting Act, whatever the hell you want to call it. He was paid by Lyndon B. Johnson to be a docile leader. Okay? The Democrats wanted the Negro vote because before Dr. King, Negroes historically voted Republican because they were the party of Lincoln. Okay? Brothers and sisters died, trying to go to the polls, got their heads bashed in to try to vote for the Republicans Party. Now, flip it around to the 50s, here come Dr. King, 50s and 60s. Now he got Negroes going to get in their head cracked to vote for the Democratic Party. And the party that so-called freed the slave, the party of Lincoln, because they ain't free a damn thing, you know what I'm saying, turn their backs on blacks, because blacks turn their backs on them. Now the Republican Party, being the scorned bitch that they are completely against black people and are doing their best to destroy black people. They say hell have no fury like a woman scorned. Well, the Republican Party is that scorned woman. And hell have no fury like a political party scorned. Right. Okay. It is the Republican Party is the angriest baby mama you'd ever want to meet. Right. You know what I mean? It's the most bitter bitch ex-lover that you'd ever want to have. Because they're like, after all we did for you niggas, you're going to turn your back on us for the people that were the worst to you. The ones that you were marching against in Selma. The ones you were marching against at the Capitol. We were marching against democratic decisions. Right. And the Republican Party were the ones that were, quote unquote, supporting us. But let's get it for real. None of them ever helped us do a goddamn thing. None of us ever helped us get free. When they said separate but equal, none of them actually pushed for us to have equality, to have equal things, because they fear our rise. Right. They saw what we did in Rosewood, Black Wall Street, Seneca Village, Slocum, and all these other places, which I am going to bring out the history of our greatness in this country and how we got burned out and lynched and burned down. You know what I mean, in a future class. But as we decided to rise up and fight back in this country, as we started asking for freedom and equality, we said it's separate but equal. We were fine with the separate. Right. Oh, we were great with the separate. Our thing was just let us be separate, leave us alone. Right. Stop coming in lynching us. Stop coming in burning down our businesses. Stop coming in raping our women and our kids and our brothers. And you know what I mean? We were asking white people to simply leave us alone. Separate was perfectly fine. Our community thrived under the separate but equal. Right. But the part that we did not get was that equal part. Everything we got was hand-me-down. Our educational tools and books were all hand-me-down and outdated. We had outdated school books. Hell, even to this day, when you go into certain black communities, certain impoverished black communities, with certain challenged schools, as they call them, their books a lot of their books are 2, 3, 4, 5 years outdated. When I was in school, I had a book when I was in 8th grade, and it had the name of about 5 or 6 8th graders who were in 8th grade before me. You know what I'm saying? We get the same books. They don't update our books. While our Caucasian counterparts are getting the latest technology in their school. When they had computers in our school, we were barely using calculators. We still weren't allowed to use calculators. You want to say something? Okay. You know what I'm saying? When they were moving over to Windows, you had the door shut in your face. We were still using books from in the 90s. We were using books from the 80s. In the 2000s, we were using books from the early 90s. In the early 2000s. Right now, I guarantee you, the books that your children are learning out of are outdated and behind the curve. And then they wonder why we can't rise. But all of that is a result of Dr. Martin Luther King's dream. All of that is a result of him interfering, Him and the big six, I think they called them. All them greedy bastard pastors that were paid off to be the black face for the Democratic Party and sidetrack that revolutionary movement that was happening and turn it into a civil rights movement, because it was the freedom, justice, and equality movement before it became a civil rights movement. That's what you're going to go celebrate on Monday with your day off, and you're going to watch Lil Boy King and Selma and all of that stuff. You're going to go and celebrate one of the authors of your demise. You're going to celebrate the false prophet that the scripture warns of. If you could, Baba Gashar, continue on.
For the Lord your God proveth you to know whether ye love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul.
You see, that says that because the Lord is going to put this prophet right here. If you don't follow him, it's going to prove that you love the Lord. Because the scripture is going to prove that you actually read the Bible and are following what the Lord tells you to do. He said, don't follow this prophet, and that'll show your love of the Lord. So the men of the ISUPK, we are proving our love to the Lord, because we do not follow no goddamn Martin Luther King Jr.
That's right.
We don't give a damn about his dream. We don't give a damn about his civil rights movement.
Right.
We don't give a damn about his speeches.
That's right.
We don't give a damn about anything that brother did, because it led our people astray. He is a teaching tool. He is a lesson. You know what I'm saying? And may that brother rise again in the kingdom under the right mind and the right leadership, and grow, and possibly grow to be the powerful brother that he really could have been. Right. But while he was here, he was nothing but a servant to our oppressors.
That's right.
He was nothing but their dog, their pet. He was a tool that they used to further oppress us and push us even further behind, because we were cresting on passing them. Well, see, we think about before the civil rights movement, and we think about them parts down south where, you know, brothers and sisters were living in shanty towns and shacks. They still do to this day. That ain't changed. But what they don't tell you is that the black family was the most successfully married, was the most successful family in America.
That's right.
The black family had the highest, the black community had the highest marriage rate and the lowest divorce rate. And our family stayed together. Teenage pregnancy was shunned and frowned upon. We were not number one in teenage pregnancy. We were not number one in STDs. We were not number one in health, in diseases and health issues, in health conditions. We weren't. We were the number one household, the fastest growing family in America. And Dr. Martin Luther King, with his integration and the rest of his integrationists, put a staggering halt to our progress in this country. And we have slowly but surely been crawling by like a wounded animal, trying to make it to the finish line in this race that's called life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Continue. If you could, Bobby, I see you. Drop down to verse 5.
Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 5. And that prophet, or that dreamer of dreams.
Now that prophet, that dreamer of dreams, the one that came and gave you he said he had been to the mountaintop and he had looked over, and the Lord let him see the promised land. The Lord let him see, he said the Lord let him see the promised land. The Lord let him see that day where every race of people was just going to get along so well, and we were all going to be unified, and that was his dream, and that was his vision. That's the prophecy that Dr. King gave. That's his dream that he sold you. Go ahead.
If I could, whenever he said that he seen the mountaintop, he tried to make himself seem like he was Moses. You know what I'm saying? I seen this promised land. I can't go over there with you.
I can't.
But I seen it.
Good night. Hey. Exactly. Dr. King was trying to transform himself to Moses, because Moses went to the top of the mountain and peered over and saw the promised land, but he never went into the promised land. He never got there. because the Lord told him that he would not be in the promised land because of the sin he committed against the Lord. So Dr. King was calling himself Moses. And everybody said, oh, did you hear that? He predicted his own death. He ain't predict his death. The Lord did. Continue reading the scripture.
And that prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death.
Shall be what?
Shall be put to death.
That prophet or that dreamer of dreams shall be put to death. That is in the book of Deuteronomy. That is in the beginning of the Bible. That is before Christ was born. You know what I'm saying? So he didn't predict his own death. He probably read that scripture and was like, damn, I'm that dreamer of dreams. I told the world that I had a dream. The Lord is going to kill me. So all these people that are calling me and all these death threats that I'm getting, because every civil rights leader got death threats. But, you know, that was just part. If you stand out in hell, Commander General Yohana gets death threats every day. General Mahaiman gets death threats every day. I'm sure Captain Jazariah gets death threats all the time. You know what I'm saying? Being in the ISUPK is you get a death, you're gonna get some death threats.
Right.
That's just part of trying to lead our people out of this captivity. But Dr. King knew he messed up. So him saying, I might not get there with you and da because they were calling him, telling him they was gonna kill him. He probably read the scripture and was like, he realized the Lord wasn't with him. You know what I'm saying? So he didn't predict his death. The scriptures predicted his death. Continue reading.
Because he hath spoken to turn you away from the Lord your God.
Because he spoke to turn us away from God. He turned us away from separating the Lord. The way he turned us away from God, you may ask how? Easily. The Lord wants us separate from everybody else. Right. The Lord wants us up on our own, developing amongst ourselves, developing ourselves in our own community, fixing our own problems, and working on attaining our greatness together. Wow. He wants us bonded together as one people, as one body, as one family. So anybody and anything that is coming against that is going against the Lord, is leading you away from the Lord and what the Lord intended for you. And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was the #1 leader of men leading you away from the Lord.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Any more on that?
Lies.
All right, cool. If you could, Baba Gashar, drop that.
Slide, sir.
Jeremiah, hold it for you too. Oh, yeah, that's right. Where I'm going. Go right ahead. Look, that's that one body. If you could, Baba Gashar.
You want to start at verse 19?
Let me see. Let me get there with you. Yeah, let's start there.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, verse 19. Behold, a whirlwind of the Lord is gone forth in fury, even a grievous whirlwind. It shall fall grievously upon the head of the wicked.
I think that's self-explanatory. I really have to break that down. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to fall on the head of the wicked. Dr. King had orgies.
Right.
With Edomite women. You know what I mean? Dr. King accepted bribes from our oppressor to mislead his people. Dr. King lied to his people. Dr. King misled his people. So when it says the whirlwind is going to fall on the head of the wicked, during that time period of the civil rights movement, Dr. King was a very wicked man.
Right.
Because he was doing wicked things against his people for his own gain and his own profit. Go ahead.
Book of Jeremiah, chapter 23, verse 20. The anger of the Lord shall not return until he have executed and till he have performed the thoughts of his heart. In the latter days ye shall consider it perfectly.
So the anger of the Lord is not until it executes what it's supposed to execute, until it does what it's supposed to do. The Lord's anger is not going to be kindled. The Lord's anger against Dr. King was not kindled until he was executed.
Right.
Okay, until he was taken off of this earth. You know what I mean? And it performed because the Lord warned us against what. If you're paying attention to the scripture we just brought out, it said until he have performed the thoughts of his heart. The thoughts of the Lord's heart was that dreamer of dreams will be put to death.
That's right.
So when he got executed was when he got executed.
Right.
That kindled the Lord's anger. I know it's hard to accept it. I know it's hard to believe, but that is the type of God that we serve. Hell, the Lord's anger was almost kindled with me when I almost got murdered right before I came in the truth. But the Lord's mercy allowed me one more time to come through these doors and enter into the ISUPK and never leave.
Right.
If I would have just said, oh, Lord, give me a little bit more time again. I need one more extension. That would have been it for me. I literally was almost executed before I came in the truth because of my wickedness, because of my stubbornness and hard-headedness. But I heeded the call. I stopped resisting. I came through these doors. I have not left, and Lord willing, I'll never leave.
Right.
Because I don't want me coming in here hopefully kindled the Lord's anger against me. I don't want to walk out of here and rekindle the Lord's anger and then he have to, quench it again. No. Dr. King did not, he turned around too late. He had the damage that he did was done. Right. And it's reverberating through history. To this day, Dr. King's damage is still destroying the Black community. He gutted the Black community. Right. Dr. King is the reason that we have the highest statistics of everything negative inside of this country.
That's right.
Dr. King is the reason that teenage pregnancy is through the roof. Dr. King is the reason that we're the #1 in disease, that we're the last hired, first fired. Dr. King's dream is the reason that we're the #1 in teenage pregnancy, AIDS, that we're one of the fastest growing populations in that homosexuality. All of these things will make, and I know for those people that love Dr. King, listen, I grew up, Dr. King was one of my heroes. Okay? Then Malcolm X was one of my heroes. Both of those brothers failed us.
Right.
Both of those brothers did not succeed. The Lord was not with them. The Lord used them for a certain amount of time, for a point, so that we, and it says, read that last part in the what? The latter.
Mm-hmm. In the latter days, ye shall consider it perfectly.
The Lord used them so in the latter days, so in the times that we are now, that we can look back and see and go through these scriptures when the truth came into the earth.
Right.
When the truth came back in the earth and his people started to raise up and his people started to come back into their right minds and really be able to understand these scriptures like we're supposed to understand them, we could look back and understand and consider Dr. King and Malcolm X and all these other brothers perfectly. It's a tragedy that Malcolm X died. It's a tragedy that Martin Luther King died, that Medgar Evers died, that Huey Newton died, that all these, Fred Hampton died, that all these brothers that were killed and murdered. It's a tragedy that these brothers lost their lives. And all they were really trying to do was in some way, shape, or form, help their people and try to be a difference. But they were leading their people the wrong way.
Right.
Dr. King was leading us right into the day and time that we're in right now. And Malcolm X was trying to counter it by leading us into the Muslim mosque. You know what I'm saying? And so on and so forth. Everything was being done to lead us in a direction that would not lead us back to our identity, that would not give us our God back, our language back, our customs and our traditions back. Every civil rights leader that you know and worship and love was leading us into being better Americans.
Right.
Were leading us into being better citizens and parts of this country when we actually need to focus on exiting this country, another exodus.
Right.
To get out of here the best way we can. Now, the best way we can is to come into the ISUPK, the Commander General Yohana,
That's right.
learn these scriptures, find out our identity, and separate ourselves from amongst them while being still being amongst them.
That's right.
Separate ourselves from America while being in America. Ain't no need to flee off to Jerusalem or the Middle East or some remote part of Africa or some over here or some over there. Ain't no need for us to go anywhere because we can separate ourselves right here. Right. We've done it. That fleeing doctrine ain't what we fleeing from. The best thing you can flee from is your sin. The best thing you can flee from is these American holidays. That's right. The best thing you can flee from is all those false doctrines that have been beat into your head for the last 400 years, right. And definitely for the last 50 to 60 years since the Civil Rights Movement. Because since the Civil Rights Movement, Egyptology has gained steam. We are not no stinking Egyptians. That whole Afrocentric movement gained steam. We are not Africans. We are the whole Moorish movement gained steam. We are not Moroccans. Mm-hmm. We are none of that. Right. We are the children of Israel. Yasharallah in the Hebrew. We are the princes of power. That's our identity. That's who we are. And every leader that you have ever followed and ever known, except for Commander General Yohana, has led you astray, has led you wrong. Abba Bibin started to bring the truth into the earth and started leading our people right. The seven heads perpetuated it so that we would continue on and grow and grow and grow. And then in the modern times, in the very last days, the Lord is pulling his people and his army together and gave us a spectacular commanding general, right, who has been doing this since the 80s, since he was 16 years old, and has dedicated his entire life to raising up Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans the right way. Right. And they've attempted to pay him off. He won't take the money. They've attempted to threaten him and scare him off. He won't run. You better believe that they attempted to flood whores in front of him, because with leadership and power come what? Groupies, whores. He won't lay with them. You got a special man right here in front of you that has sacrificed his entire life and endangered his life, and they can't kill him. They can't touch him. Right. They can't arrest him. Right. They can't tempt him. They can't corrupt him. Unlike Dr. Martin Luther King, who y'all gonna go celebrate on Monday, who the Lord just said he had to die to kindle the Lord's anger, so that we can, in the latter times, look back and properly discern the matter, which is what we're doing today. Right. Any more on that?
Mm-hmm. Verse 5. It's like it. Verse 21. Mm-hmm. I have not sent these prophets.
What?
I have not sent these prophets.
Martin Luther King.
I have not sent these prophets.
Malcolm X.
I have not sent these prophets.
Louis Farrakhan.
I have not sent these prophets.
T.D. Jakes.
I have not sent these prophets.
Joel Osteen.
I have not sent these prophets.
Creflo Dollar.
I have not sent these prophets.
Christian pastors.
I have not sent these prophets.
Egyptologists.
I have not sent these prophets.
Muslim imams.
I have not sent these prophets.
The Lord said he has not sent any of these men. None of these so-called prophets. The Lord did not send them. Everyone that you are following outside of the ISUPK, the Lord did not send them. Satan did. Right. The masters of this world did. That's why they're so rich and elegant and so digestible. They're like Campbell's soup. Right. You know what I'm saying? You can just good, as the commercials used to say. I might have just shown my age with that one. You know what I mean? But hey, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But everything they do, you love it, you digest it. Even when you don't, even Farrakhan is like, oh, I can't stand that guy. He's such, but damn, he does make sense. You can't really argue with him about that. But everything we say out of our mouth is an argument. Right. Everybody argues with us. The world argues with everybody, from the world to our women. Everybody argues with us. Everybody fights us. Everybody contends with us. Everybody wants to debate us and prove us wrong so they can try to mock us out of existence. Well, Barakatah Yahweh Yahweh Shai, that you cannot do that because the Lord is with the men of the ISUPK.
That's right.
And we have the truth and we properly discern the word of the Lord, and there's nothing you can do about it. You cannot stop it because the time is nigh. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Repent ye therefore. Turn away from celebrate. Dr. Martin Luther King's is a holiday. Don't celebrate him on that day. You're making him into an idol. That's idol worship. Take that as a day off. Go ahead and get some extra sleep if your job gave you the day off, but don't be putting up your happy MLK Day posts and putting up he did this and he's so great and did that, and putting up his image as your Facebook profile or your background and all this other nonsense that y'all about to do. You know what I mean? Be back watching this movie all day long. You gonna watch all 30 of them Martin Luther King movies. Spend your whole day watching Martin Luther King movies and then take your butt back into slavery the very next day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The Lord did not send Dr. King. Read.
Yet they ran.
What?
Yet they ran.
Yet they came and ran anyway. They ran in what? This race. They ran the race. They ran you. They ruled and reigned over you. They were in front of you, and you followed them. You ran after them. They hopped down in this race and started running in first place, and you was right behind them, and you're still running behind them to this day, behind their ghosts. Read.
I have not spoken to
The
them.
Lord did not give Dr. Martin Luther King no mountaintop dream.
Right.
Okay? The Lord did not give Dr. King some magical dream where blacks and whites were going to hold hand in hand and sing Negro spirituals together. That is not what the Lord said. The Lord said we are a separate people upon himself above everybody else on the face of the earth. So where the hell did Dr. King get that dream from? That was his own heart, his own desire.
Right.
He had a dream of how he wanted the world to be so he could be free to marry his first love, a white woman. Read.
Yet they prophesied.
Yet they what?
Yet they prophesied.
Yet they prophesied anyway. Dr. King prophesied anyway. He went and gave you that dream speech. Then he went and gave you the mountaintop speech. He went and gave you all of these prophecies that black people held on. Here's the thing, and you say, Martin Luther King wasn't no prophet. Yes, he was, because you held on to his dream all the way up to today.
Right.
You thought Barack Obama was the fulfillment of the dream till he didn't do a goddamn thing for you.
Right.
And now you're still holding on to the dream with these police shootings, with these mass shootings. The brother of the founder of Black Lives Matter just got murdered by the police, which they're going to break down on the Round Table of Truth tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Time. You know what I'm saying? You stuck to that dream because it was a false prophet giving a false prophecy. Right. You thought that future that Dr. Martin Luther King spoke about was going to come true. So don't now say he wasn't a prophet. You still waiting on that prophecy to come true. Well, I'm going to tell you what prophecy is going to come true. Yahushua Mashiach, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, is going to crack the sky and come down with over 100 million angels in flying saucers, and they are going to destroy this civilization that we live in. That's right. They're going to destroy this world that we live in, and the kingdom of heaven will be reestablished on earth, and niggas, spics, wetbacks, and savages will be the #1 citizens of those kingdoms, right. Of that kingdom. And order will be restored, and the earth shall be right again, and the children of Israel will be back on top where they're supposed to be. That's right. That's the prophecy you can count on happening. Not some foolish mountaintop speech or some foolish dream speech that was about really at its core lusting after heathen flesh. Read. 22.
You want to stay there? You want to drop 25?
No, let's stay in 22.
Verse 22. But if they stood in my counsel.
If they what?
If they stood in my counsel.
If they stood in the Lord's counsel. If the Lord had really spoken to them and was guiding these men that called themselves your leader, if the Lord was really guiding Dr. King, read.
And had caused my people to hear my words.
And had actually said what the Most High God wanted him to say and led them the way, led our people the way that the Lord wanted our people to be led. How the ISUPK is doing right now? Read.
Then they should have turned them from their evil ways.
He should have turned around from taking that money from Lyndon B. Johnson. He should have turned around from the Voting Rights Act. He should have turned around from that horrible failure of a march in Selma. He would have turned around from trying to integrate our people into a people that hate us and effectively destroying Black businesses, destroying Black education, and destroying the structure of the Black family. Read.
And from their evil doings.
That's the evils and the wicked things that he did. Now drop down to verse 25.
Verse 25. I've heard the prophets. So I've heard what the prophets said that prophesied lies in my name.
The Lord said, I heard what he said. You think Dr. King was the first one? You think Dr. King was the first false prophet and the first dreamer of dreams amongst our people? Remember, we are reborn on this earth. So Dr. King, that he wasn't the first one to do it. And I can tell you this, that probably wasn't his first time doing it.
Right.
You think that this was the first captivity he did this in? No. The Lord told us back in Deuteronomy to watch for this prophet, to watch for these prophets. So it's going to be more than one. He didn't say prophets. He said prophets.
Right.
And there's still ones to this day still doing the same darn thing, lying to you about some dream they had, about some vision that the Lord came down to me in a dream last night, brother, and he told me, Cleotis, go and tell the congregation on Sunday.
Right.
Go and tell the people on Sunday morning. Go and tell Miss Lulabelle that she need to dig deep down in her purse, to the bottom of her purse, and pull out that money. Yeah, I done heard it all. You see, I can imitate the crap because I've heard it. Okay? That's what they do. That didn't come from the Lord. The Lord just said he ain't telling them to do that. Read.
Saying, I have dreamed. I have dreamed.
Saying what?
I have dreamed. I have dreamed.
I had a dream today. I had a dream. I have dreamed. I have dreamed. Your pastor in church on Sunday. I guarantee you this Sunday, Lacombe, turn on any church you want. Turn on any pastor randomly across this country, and you know what they're going to talk about? Some funky behind, stale, lying dream that they had. They're either going to talk about a dream they had. They're going to talk about Dr. King. It's a pastor out here on Sunday. Several pastors on Sunday is going to start off talking about Dr. King's dream. Then they're going to transition over to the dream that they had. And then that dream going to transform to their vision of the church. And then after that vision of the church came out, whoop, bam, there go the collection plate. Dream fulfilled. I dreamt your dollars into my pocket. Pass the collection plate. So I can fulfill this vision that the Lord gave me for the church, for the body of Christ. Come on, how many times can we keep falling for this same crap?
Right.
How many times are we going to let these same people do the same thing over and over and over and completely, utterly destroy us while they seek to increase and build themselves up off of you? Creflo Dollar, T.D. Jakes, Eddie Long before he died of AIDS, whoever the pastor is over Eddie Long's church now, the bling bling pastor who's up on embezzlement charges, all of these people are using you to increase themselves at the cost of your destruction. Go ahead.
So if I could. The current pastor of Eddie Long Church is the marijuana pastor.
Oh, that's right, the reefer pastor. That's right. He done married Pastor Marijuana. Jamal Bryant. That's his name. Yes, sir. Jamal Roller Blunt Bryant. Pastor Roller Blunt. Because he gonna get all the young, he not going out to try to discern the sinners. He gonna go out sniffing. He gonna sniff out all the little young brothers that smell like weed and bring them into the church so he can teach them how to grow marijuana and turn the biggest land-owning church in the United States that happens to be black into the biggest weed dispensary you ever wanted to see. He wants to be the plug. Pastor Plug. Good night. You can't make this stuff up, Become. Matter of fact, verse 26 summarizes the whole thing. If you could, Baba Gashar.
Verse 26. How long shall this be in the heart of the prophets that prophesy lies?
How long is this going to be in their heart? How long is this wicked, evil deception going to be in their hearts? How long is this lust going to be in their hearts? Read.
They are prophets of the deceit of their own hearts.
They're prophets of the deceit of their own heart. They lust after their own hearts, their own lusts. They're not prophesying to you to try to uplift you, to try to give you freedom. They're not prophesying to you to try to make you a better person, to try to get you out of sin, to try to get you out of the ghetto, the barrio, or the reservation. They're not prophesying to you to try to get you to not get shot by the police or OD on some cheap drugs. They're not prophesying to you to keep your health safe from heart disease and diabetes and chronic heart failure and cardiovascular disease and gout and all these other things and high blood pressure, all these things that are killing us at an all-time high, let alone AIDS, monkeypox, syphilis, herpes, gonorrhea, you know what I'm saying? All of HPV, all these other viruses and diseases that are out here. They're not prophesying to protect you against those things. They're not telling you they had dreams to protect you. They're not going to say, hey, brother, don't go out Saturday night and sleep with that whore that you're going to meet at the club. As a matter of fact, don't go to the club at all. If you go to the club, you're going to meet a whore. You're going to sleep with her, and you're going to wake up the next morning, and your ride's going to fall off, and 3 weeks later, you're going to shrivel up and die.
Right.
They're not doing that. They're not saying, hey, sister, don't go out twerking on the ground. Don't make, you know what, if you got an OnlyFans page, shut it down, because you're going to meet some lunatic who's going to stalk you out and show up at your home and rape you and your kids and kill you all. Or if you got a husband, he's going to be obsessed with you and kill your husband. Or sister, you're going to go out to the club and be twerking, and some man is going to have sex with you, and your box is going to shrivel up, and 3 weeks later, you're going to die. They're not prophesying for your benefit. They're not prophesying to help you. They're not prophesying to make sure that you live and grow and prosper and live the way that the Most High Father wants you to live.
Right.
They're prophesying so you can put some money in their collection plate, and they can get rich and have $30 million mansions and G6 jets and roll around in Bentleys and Benzes and rub shoulders with celebrities and wear more gold than the law allows and live the most comfortable, lush, plush life they can. Oh yeah, and buy some of the most high-class whores that have to be drug tested before they fly them into the mansion to do with the nasty things they do with them. Right. While you sitting out here picking up $5 holes on the corner. Come on. You know what I mean? That's the men. Those are the prophets that you have. Those are the ones that grew themselves up after Dr. Martin Luther King. Because all of them all of them on Sunday going to be trying to sound like Dr. King. All of them follow Dr. King's heart. They be having orgies and all that other nasty stuff that Mike did. You know what I'm saying? They want to be like Mike. Orgy Mike. They want to be like Orgy Mike. Not Jordan. King.
Right.
That's the Mike they want to be like. If you could, Baba Gashar, one last scripture before I do. Drop that and give me give Matthew 23:1. See, one thing we have to let's go to fantasy about Dr. King and these Christian pastors and these Muslim imams and these Egyptologists and these so-called spiritual gurus and soothsayers and tarot card readers and zodiac sign masters and all this other bull crap that is nothing but ways of the heathens that has nothing to do with us. All of it is trickery. All of it is deception. All of it is vanity. All of it are traps designed to make you sin and not turn from your sin. So the Most High will kill you. Eventually, it's going to kill them, but they want to live high off the hog before they die.
Right.
They want to be able to fly in the sky. They want to be able to swim the depths of the ocean. They want to be able to eat, drink, taste, and have sex with the most exotic things on this planet before they leave here. It's just leaving you in the ghetto eating pork chops and fat back and pork skins and pork rinds and shrimp. You think shrimp is a high class delicacy, but you're getting some of the most bottom of the barrel shrimp. They're leaving you in the ghetto to eat bacon.
Right.
While they eating steak.
Right.
Okay. They leaving you in the ghetto to struggle to scrape up money for your kids to have some unhealthy ass McDonald's, excuse my language, while they're using your money that you give them in the collection plate to hire a chef to make their kids some of the healthiest gourmet meals you would ever want to imagine. You ever wonder why these pastors, when you see their daughters, when they turn into whores, like Creflo Dollar's daughter and a bunch of the other ones, they got some of the finest daughters. You ever want to see them little chicks be bad? Want to know why? Because they grew up eating some of the best food money could buy. They grew up, they got personal trainers, but they don't need personal trainers because they have grown up with a balanced diet off of good meats, good fruits, good vegetables that are fresh, pesticide-free, chemical-free, so their bodies have developed perfectly fine. That's why they look so good until they get out in the street drugging and whoring. While your kids, you'd be happy if your son don't develop diabetes by the time that he's 10. You'd be happy that your grandfather's foot don't got to get cut off by gout. You'll be happy yourself if that high blood pressure and that cholesterol don't kill you by the age of 35.
Right.
While your pastor, you wonder why your pastor got a glow about him? Because he's eating the best foods. He's living a high life. He sleeps in a comfortable bed, more comfortable than that little raggedy piece of crap, piss-infested mattress with the springs coming out that you sleeping on.
Right.
His bed do this. You know what I'm saying? His bed got memory foam. It adjusts up, down, side to side. His bed got switches on it. While your bed is stuck in that one position where you got to kind of do one of these so you can get a good night's sleep. Stop falling for this crap, man. If you could, Baba Kashar, because you know I'll keep going. Read.
Book of Matthew, chapter 23, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
Then spake Yahushua to the multitude and to his disciples.
And this is what Christ had to say to the multitude and his disciples. Pay close attention because he's talking about your Christian pastor. He's talking about your Muslim imam. He's talking about Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and all your civil rights leaders, all your church leaders, all your community leaders, all your spiritual guides, all your comedic scientists. Every religious leader and system that you follow and thought pattern that you follow outside of the Israelite school of UPK, he's talking about. You got something? All right, go ahead.
Saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat.
They do what?
Sit in Moses' seat.
These people, what does it mean by they sit in Moses' seat? Moses' seat was the seat of leadership.
Right.
Moses' seat was the seat of guidance to lead us out of captivity, to lead us to the promised land.
Right.
They sit in the seat of a person that's supposed to lead us out of hardship and tribulation and terror and death and lead us somewhere that's going to be beneficial to us, that's going to help us live and thrive and grow and live longer and be healthier and be happy. They sit in Moses' seat. Read.
Verse 3. All therefore Whatsoever they bid, you observe.
So whatever they bid you, observe. They tell you, see, because they sit in Moses' seat. So they gonna read from the Bible. They gonna tell you, don't get it wrong. They gonna tell you to turn away from your sin. They tell you to turn away from your sin, turn away from it. You see, they gotta hook you in with something. So they get a piece of the truth. They get a couple scriptures here and there to tell you what God don't like. When they start telling you what God don't like, heed them and observe that. Read.
That observe and do.
So the scribes and the Pharisees, they knew the law. Oh, they knew it. That's how they led. That's how they ruled over people. They walked around with the law on their shoulder. So when they told them about something in the law, yeah, they could tell you the law because they done studied that book of the law. So it said when them scribes and the Pharisees told you what to observe it and do it. Follow the law when they tell you to follow the law. Follow the word of God when they tell you what the word of God, when they really say what the word of God really is, when you can read it and see that that's what it say. Follow and do that. Read.
But do not ye after their works.
So what?
But do not ye after their works.
Don't follow what they do, though.
Right.
Don't do what they do. Don't go after their works. Don't try to be like your pastor. Don't try to be like your imam. Don't try to be like none of these men, because their works are dastardly. Their works are vanity. Their works are wicked works, self-serving works that's only going to work for them and lead them into the punishment that the Most High has for them. Read.
For they say and do not.
For they say and they do not. They tell you the Lord don't want you out here smoking weed, young man, and then they go back to the crib and they got a cannabis vape. They tell you the Most High don't want you sleeping with no whores in the club and no whores, and you don't go out to the bar and get drunk and go home with somebody and do that, but they sleeping, they buying high price prostitutes. The Lord frowns down on adultery. Don't you go sleeping with nobody else's woman, but then they sleeping with every woman in the church. That's. I saw it was on TikTok. It was an old episode of Divorce Court where brother was getting sued or divorced or somebody. It was one of them court shows, and a brother was suing his pastor for damages that he incurred because the pastor slept with his wife, right? And he's going on and on about how the pastor did this and how he got emotional distress and all that stuff. And then he brought up Miss Maddie, church secretary. And she was saying how she was disappointed in the pastor. She was testifying because she had all the church records and she remembered everything. And she'd been the church secretary for quite a while. And she saw in the records that he had hotel receipts signed in his wife's name or something like that, but it wasn't his wife's signature. And she knew by, she did her nosy busybody investigation and found out that it was that brother's wife that the pastor was going to the hotel with on a regular basis. And so she told that brother, and that brother ended up divorcing his wife and bringing the pastor to court to sue for pain and suffering and all that stuff. Well, you know why she told on the pastor? Because the pastor told her that she would be the only woman that he ever needed. Because he was sleeping with this 60-something, 70-year-old woman. He's sleeping with Miss Hattie, the church secretary. So don't think that it ain't going down in your church. You think them old women love your pastor for no good reason? They love your pastor because that's their husband. That's their man. They'll defend that pastor to death. They'll cook for that pastor. They'll fight each other over pastor because he's sleeping with all of them. So do what they say and not what they do. Because the stuff that they're doing is some wicked, wicked things. Let me see. Continue on.
Verse 4. For they bind heavy burden and grievous to be borne.
They're going to give you a heavy burden. They're going to give you tasks that you can't fulfill. They're going to make you feel some type of way about the things you do that they don't care if they don't feel that way. They don't feel no guilt when they sleep with your wife. They don't feel no guilt when they're sleeping with your grandmother. They don't feel no guilt when they robbing up out of their plate. But they're going to increase your burden because they're going to tell your wife, if he's not making enough money, leave him. Don't be with no man that you're not equally yoked to. How you going to tell your wife? How he going to tell your wife to leave you if you fall on hard times or if she make more money than you? How you going to tell sisters don't date a brother that's broke? I ain't saying go out here and date broke men, but a brother that's broke with ambition, a brother that's broke and trying.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Or maybe you make enough money, sister, to take care of two people, and you need a man that can love you. I know that there's men in this ISUPK that dedicate themselves to this truth every day, all day. If I'm not slaving, I'm in this school every day, all day, doing whatever it takes to make sure that the Chicago school and the ISUPK period under Commander General Yohana can spread this truth and be up and running. And I'll be dead broke without a penny in my pocket. You don't think that I don't want some beautiful sister to come back and hold it down while I'm out here doing the work of the Lord? You don't think that the men of the Lord need did Christ work a job? But there were plenty of sisters around to help support Christ and the disciples. So while your pastor is trying to tell you, if he broke, if he ain't got no job, no romance without finance and all that other old outdated crap that they like to tell you, what they're telling you is that if Yahushua was on this earth, you would shun Jesus. You wouldn't help Christ build his ministry because Christ didn't have a job. Christ didn't have a home. He roamed around freely, stayed with people, stayed under the stars, and taught. Under the heavens. He didn't have a church. The men that he was with, they left their jobs. They left their slaveries. They left behind everything that they knew and had and followed Christ faithfully wherever he went and lived how Christ lived, off the kindness of others, off of donations, off of tithes and priest funds, off of people opening up their homes to him and feeding him and washing their feet and taking care of him, off the sisters who made sure that they were taken care of. But your pastor gonna tell you, sister, don't do that. Your pastor would have you turn against Christ right now if he could, because Christ don't got a job. Read.
And lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers.
Now, you know what? So let's get back into Dr. King with this one. You know, a heavy burden that he laid upon men's shoulders, but would not move it with his own finger, that whole nonviolent movement. He preached to people to be nonviolent. He told people to integration and nonviolence was a heavy burden that he placed upon our people. All right. Now, he had our brothers and sisters going into white-only restaurants, getting milkshakes poured on their head, and getting the hamburgers smashed in their face, and getting beaten and raped. Now, they don't tell you that part, but you got to understand their mob mentality. You think them beautiful sisters that went up into them restaurants and sat at them bars and at them tables, they themselves may not talk about it. You think they weren't sexually assaulted? Hell, the men they whip are nonviolent.
Right.
They let me pour a milkshake on his head. They let me smash a hamburger and fries in his face. Hit him with a hot dog. What they gonna do to protect that woman next to him? By the time everything kicks off, I'm beating the hell out of him. I'm beating the hell out of her. What you think happening to her? The sisters, the fortunate sisters just got beaten. You think that every sister that walked into them diners just got beaten and slapped around and food put on them and then kicked out?
Right.
You out your goddamn mind, and you do not know where you live. You do not know the history of this country, and you do not live in the reality that we live in. Dr. King set our sisters up and our brothers up to go and be violated all across this country. It just wasn't in the South. Segregation was everywhere. All right. Brothers and sisters got beaten and robbed, not robbed, but beaten, assaulted, and raped, trying to desegregate a dinner counter. We had plenty of good food in our own community. We didn't need they bland food. They milkshakes wasn't no better than ours. They fried chicken definitely wasn't better than ours. They burgers, they fried, none of that stuff they had was better than ours because we cook better. We got more flavor in our food. You think Dr. King went and sat at their lunch counter? I ain't never seen a video or a picture of Dr. King sitting at a lunch counter getting a milkshake poured on his head. I ain't never seen a video or a picture of Dr. King doing like this or doing like this while some cop beat the brakes off of him. He sent y'all out all across the country. He sent your mothers and your fathers and your grandparents and your uncles and your aunties all across the different points of this country to be beaten, to be beaten, raped, and murdered while he sat back at home. He came to Chicago, over in Bridgeport, got hit in the head with one rock and ran like the road runner. He ran like the Flash and got up out of there. One rock. And he was out of there. Never came back. Never came back. He had the people of Selma trying to march from Selma to Montgomery, trying to march over that bridge. And when they came to that bridge, they got water, that famous footage that you see, the most visceral civil rights footage that you see with the police, with they chase down the crowd and they start beating women and the dogs is attacking and they put the fire hoses on them and the police move in on them. That was them attempting to cross that bridge. That went viral back then. That was on every news station and news media all across the world. And Dr. King came down there to try to help them go across the bridge because he said, I'm going to lead y'all and bring the media out. He said, the National Guard needs to be here, but the National Guard was like, shh, nigga, please. National Guard didn't show up. They said the police was like, go ahead, cross. And Dr. King took everybody. I didn't think, oh my God, what was the number? Salaki, I had the number. Dr. King, on the morning, it's called Turnaround Tuesday. Research Turnaround Tuesday. That is Tuesday, March 9th, 1965. Because the first march was called Bloody Sunday. Okay, Bloody Sunday was, when was Bloody Sunday? March 7th, 1965, 525 to 600 civil rights marchers headed southeast out of Selma on Highway 80. It was led by John Lewis of the SNCC, Southern National, I can't remember what that stands for all the way. My bad. All right, they got over to that bridge and got the brakes beat off of them. They're beaten by police officers. Let's see, a marcher named Linda Blackman, Laurie, at age 14, was beaten by police during the march and needed several stitches above her right eye, 28 stitches in the back of her head. That's the type of stuff that happened at the behest of Dr. Martin Luther King. But then, let's go to March 9th. 2 days later, here come Dr. King down there. They march up to the bridge. He done made a secret pact with the politicians and the police. They march to the bridge, kneel down at the bridge. The police part ways. Of course, they're threatening him to come through. Of course, they threatened him. But he made a deal with them that he would not march over that bridge. People didn't even know that. He made a secret deal. And they marched to the bridge, stood at the edge of the bridge, knelt down and did a prayer, and then turned back around and left. And he had with him, what's the number of people? Turn around Tuesday.
believe it was 2,500.
2,500, brother. 2,000. Yep, you're correct. 2,500 brothers and sisters came out there and said, you know what? Let them try that on us. We gonna march across this bridge. It was 600 of our last ones. Now it's 25. What you gonna do? Martin Luther King had a standing army to march across that bridge and prove our point and stand up for black people and show a power to the world that black people had not shown before. And if those police would have assaulted them, because they called for every white boy in the town in their 20s to come to town hall, come to city hall and prepare, and then to go up to this bridge and get ready for them. But that couldn't have been no more than a few hundred. We had over 2,000. And Martin Luther King led his platoon, his battalion, to the edge of the bridge, prayed and honored the secret covenant that he made with our oppressors, and turned back around and left and confused the hell out of everybody, because he promised everybody that in his speeches, in his public appearances, and his rallying, that we was going to march across that bridge. Regardless, they're going to have to beat this. They're going to He made all these promises and then turned them back around and then lied. Listen, and then lied about it. He lied to the public and said when it came out that he had a secret deal to turn around, he said, I had no such deal. They're lying on me. They're just trying to shame me and defame me because they know the power of what I do. He stood up for himself. And then he went into court and in front of a judge. What's this judge's name? If you could, Baba Gashar, read this paragraph right down underneath that picture. I ain't making this up, y'all. This is the actual history of that march on Selma, that failure in Selma, that everybody praises as some big victory. If you could, Baba Gashar.
Dr. King's credibility in the movement was shaken by the secret turnaround agreement.
By what?
The secret turnaround agreement.
He had a secret agreement to turn around and not cross that bridge. Read.
David Garrow notes that King's policy waffled and dissembled on how his final decision had been made. On some occasions, King would inaccurately claim that no prearranged agreement existed.
You see how our oppressors try to clean it up? On several occasions, basically, when he was asked about this agreement, he lied. He didn't inaccurately state that he didn't have an agreement. He lied and said he didn't have an agreement. Read.
But under oath before Judge Johnson.
But under what?
But under oath before Judge Johnson.
Oh, but then when he gets dragged into the Edomite, into our oppressor's legal system, and he gets dragged in front of a judge, and he's put under oath by our oppressors, this is what happened.
He acknowledged.
He what?
He acknowledged.
What did he acknowledge?
That there had been a tactic agreement.
There had been a turnaround tactic agreement. Read.
Criticism of King by radicals in the movement became increasingly pronounced.
Now they're saying radicals in the movement. Everybody lost faith in King because of this. Everybody lost faith in Dr. King because of that. Because he showed his true colors. He got everybody all hyped up. He got everybody all ready to go. He got everybody all ready to do something about it. And then when it came time to do something about it, he didn't want no smoke. He made an agreement with our enemies, got all this media attention, and it backfired on him because our people started to turn on him because we realized that he was a liar, a fraud, and a coward. Read.
With James Foreman calling Turnaround Tuesday a classic example of trickery against the people.
And that's exactly what it was. Dr. Martin Luther King's career in the civil rights movement was a, what did he call it?
Trickery.
No, it's classic.
Classic example.
It was a what?
A classic example.
Dr. Martin Luther King's career in the civil rights movement and everything he did after that, after he did that bus boycott, that was the only legitimate thing that he did. After the bus boycott, everything else was a
classic example
of what?
Of trickery against the people.
A trickery against our people. He was nothing but a puppet put there, just like Jesse Jackson today, just like Al Sharpton today, just like the Black Lives Matter movement, just like all of these people that you see today that are organizing you to march and to protest and to do that. They get you out there for a couple of days, maybe a week. They get you out marching and protesting to the street, and then you can make your signs and scream until you lose your voice. And hell no, we won't go. No justice, no peace. And screaming the name of the latest brother that got murdered by the police. And then next week, you back at your slavery. Everything's back to normal. The police are back to shooting people. Some young Edomite is going to go and mass murder another group of black people. But you're going to feel justified because you made a difference. You went out there and marched for a couple days. You went out and tried to make a difference and made a change. And people telling me, oh, we marched for George Floyd. There's so much change. You know all the different laws they enacted because we marched for George Floyd. And yet and still, the brother of one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter just got murdered by the cops. Just a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a 13-year-old got murdered and shot in the back by the police. And then just before that, another brother got killed by the cops. Right now, while I'm talking, a brother or a sister is getting murdered by the police. So what did you really change? Nothing. What did Dr. Martin Luther King really change? Nothing. They made it. He made it worse. You're making it worse. And then you fight against us, the ones that are really changing the system, the ones that are really changing things, the ones that are really changing brothers and sisters, the ones that are really saving the lives of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans every single day. You fight us, but you follow King. If we could, Baba Gashar, before I get out of here, drop down to verse 23. This is what the Lord said about all of your leaders, about all your religious leaders, about all your Christian pastors, about all your spiritual guides and all of that other nonsense, because guess what? That Kemetic scientist you follow is just another Christian pastor. That fake Israelite group that you follow, their leader is just another Christian pastor. That Muslim imam that you follow is just another Christian pastor. That tarot card reader, that zodiac sign chart maker, even the one at the head of your atheist whatever, they're all just Christians and they're all just like a pastor. And this is what the Lord has to say about all of them. Read.
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites.
They're all hypocrites. Dr. King was a hypocrite. He said one thing and did another. He preached nonviolence and he preached marching and standing up, and no matter what you go through and no matter how hard they hit you, don't fight back and do this and do that. And he took a rock to the head in Bridgeport and ran at top speed and got the hell out of there and never came back. But he told you to go back. He had brothers and sisters all hyped up and they started marching from Selma to this whole Selma thing that started marching, and they got to that bridge and they got damn near murdered. They got a 14-year-old sister had to get 17 stitches in the back of her head. Dr. King came to that same bridge, made a turnaround agreement. 2 days later, he came out there, made a turnaround agreement, knelt down, said a prayer, stuck to the agreement, turned around and walked away. And then he received so much flack for it. And while he asked the people to stay a little bit longer, just don't leave yet, just stay another week. And during that week, 3 white boys got attacked by 4 Klan members for being there to support niggas. One of them died because the hospital refused to treat him because he was a nigga lover. And because he died, that galvanized the country. And people from all over the country came until it was like something like 16,000 people came. And they held hand in hand with Dr. King. And he grabbed the hand of one rabbi and a Christian preacher and surrounded themselves with all these black bodies and marched their way across that bridge, and everybody claimed victory. That was the biggest failure you could ever see, because Dr. King was a hypocrite. Dr. King was a false prophet. Dr. King was a scared little man in above his head. Now, as I said, dynamic public speaker, charismatic potential leader, but because of his love for the other nations, because of his lust for heathen flesh and heathen women, and his love of money, he turned out to be nothing but a failure and another scared man in above his head. And by the time he realized the difference that he could make and tried to turn around, as soon as he tried to turn around, his masters killed him. Continue on. Well, actually, that's it. We're going to end it right there. Unless you got something. All right, Wakan. Well, once again, we are the Israelite School of Universal and Practical Knowledge. ISUPK started out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commander General Yohana. If it's not of ISUPK 1 West 125th Street under Commander General Yohana, it is not the truth. My name is Precinct Officer of 1000 Mayad. I'm joined by Precinct Officer of 500 Lakam Yala, and this has been the Thursday Night Chicago History class. Shalom, Israel.